Back with us on the SportsMax Zone. Arsenal passed their Liverpool test on Sunday at the Emirates, beating last season's runners-up 3-2 in a fierce encounter to stay top of the league. Arsenal needed just 58 seconds to find the lead. Red-hot Gabriel Martinelli running in behind Trent Alexander-Arnold to fire home. Klopp's men were level through Darwin Nunez in the 34th minute before Bukayo Saka slid home for Arsenal to make it 2 just before half-time. Saka converted a 76th minute penalty awarded when Gabriel Jesus was fouled to give the Gunners an advantage they held to the finish. Meanwhile, the Football Association says it has opened a probe into the events, which sparked heated exchanges between rival players after referee Michael Oliver awarded Arsenal the penalty. Oliver had to make peace between the Liverpool skipper Jordan Henderson and Arsenal defender Gabriel during the game. These are the pictures from the event. Arteta celebrating and manic fist pump at the end. These are the results from the round on the weekend. Leicester City losing 2-1 at Bournemouth. Chelsea beating Wolves 3-0. Not a good return to Chelsea for the ex-Chelsea striker Diego Costa. Man City too good for Southampton 4-0. Newcastle turned on the style, beating Brentford 5-1. Tottenham won on the road, beating Brighton 1-0. A tribute to their fitness coach who passed a few days ago. Crystal Palace beat Leeds 2-1. West Ham, Mikel Antonio came off the bench to put the icing on the cake 3-1 over Fulham. Arsenal confirming their victory over Liverpool. Everton went in front at Goodison Park but couldn't hold the lead. Manchester United rallying to win 2-1. And earlier on Monday, Nottingham Forest and Aston Villa drawing 1-1. The table, the Gunners out front on 24 points. They've scored 23 goals this season, letting 10, a goal difference of plus 13. City, their goal difference plus 24. They're a point behind. And the top 5 rounded out by Tottenham, Chelsea and Man United, who played a game less than 3 of the 4 teams above them. Liverpool hovering in 10th position. They have let in 12 goals this season, scoring 29 of those in one game against Bournemouth. Leicester are at the foot of the table, 4 points. Can't seem to build a sequence of good results. Brendan Rodgers' team can't. Forest in 19th position. Wolves hovering at the bottom. Southampton, Ralph Hasenhüttl says he's not scared of losing his job, in 17th position. Aston Villa also lowly, 16th. Crystal Palace, they've played better than their position in the table suggests, number 15. Leeds, West Ham, Everton and Brentford, the other teams on the second page of the EPL graphic. Now, the Liverpool boss, Jurgen Klopp, he was asked about the decision to give Arsenal a penalty.
He thought immediately it's a penalty, which is interesting, but his decision. Mr. England had to look at it and thought as well as a penalty, so how we know in life, if 2 refs think the same, then it's the truth we have to live with. But if I see the situation back, if there was contact, and I'm not sure there was contact, but there might have been soft contact, of course, but the player goes again on both feet and then down, that's an indication that something might have been made up.
Klopp not getting the rub of the green. He lamented the non-call when Diogo Jota kicked the ball against the arm of Arsenal defender Gabriel.
They thought it's a clear, not a handball in the first half when Diogo put the ball on Gabriel's arm. We cannot change that. You know, our situation is now obviously a really difficult one. But if then it's already difficult enough with injuries now on top of that. But if in a game like this, these decisions go against you, it's kind of typical, but it doesn't help. And well, now we've lost the game.
That's Jurgen Klopp. Joining us to discuss the big stories from the last round of the EPL is Brent Sancho. Brent, good afternoon. Welcome to the SportsMax Zone.
Good afternoon, George, and of course to all your viewers from the various platforms.
Right. Have you seen enough so far this season to commit to singing the anthem? Arsenal look the real deal this season?
I think they look the real deal for the fight for second place. I still feel that this is a straight Manchester City EPL season. I think there's always going to be the scrap for second place. Certainly for me, Arsenal have shown improvement. I think from where we saw Mikel Arteta was maybe a couple of years back, where he was on the brink of being fired. I believe it was a Norwich game. If he had lost that game, he probably would have gotten fired. To where he is now, we made some big decisions. Of course, Aubameyang going on to Barcelona. and now he's here. He's done very well to get to where he is. But I don't think Arsenal just yet is title contender. Certainly not this season.
Yeah, well, if you're from where they're coming from to be best of the rest after Man City, if you say Man City look far and away the best team this season, to say that Arsenal look the second best, it's a huge compliment to Arteta's side just the same.
It is a massive compliment, and I think what I like about them the most is that they've shown a defensive discipline and a defensive understanding, well, a tactical understanding, let me say, as a group. That's something that we haven't seen from an Arsenal team. We've seen indiscipline within the ranks as it relates to positioning, tactical approach to games. But I think what we've seen so far this season, they've been very, very good tactically, particularly the front three. I think they've defended outstandingly well and have prevented teams from progressing the football high up the park. And they've been very difficult to play against. And of course, offensively, they've been outstanding. Gabriel Jesus, Saka, Martinelli, just to name a few. And of course, Odegaard pulling the strings behind. So, yeah, great quality. Very good so far from Arsenal. But yes, improvement, certainly so.
Question. The Granit Xhaka question. Granit Xhaka looks like a man reborn. Is it that Xhaka is playing better for Arsenal? Well, certainly better than he's ever played for them in his time at the club. Is it that he's playing better for them because he has better players around him? Or is it that he himself has improved by himself? If you follow what I'm saying.
I actually want to throw something else in. I think because he's playing a more advanced role now, and he has a specific role. They've been giving him a specific role. I think that's helped him a lot in terms of his play. I think overall as well, I mean, when you have the likes of Gabriel Jesus, Martinelli, and of course Saka playing in the kind of form that they are playing in, and a Martin Odegaard who always wants the football, it's quite easy for Saka to perform. But you have to give him credit because you're right. A couple of seasons ago, maybe even last season, I thought he would have been out the door for Arsenal. He was a liability for them. Now he's played himself into almost a player that cannot be dropped from the team sheet.
Yes, Brent, and now to a Liverpool question. It is clear that they have a lot of defensive issues. What do you make, though, of Klopp's decision, and the way in which he has, opted not to go with Fabinho?
Yeah, but it's a strange one, certainly because one of the problems that Liverpool have had this season, of course, is defensive instability. It's the first time I've seen Liverpool under Klopp give teams so many chances, and it doesn't matter what sphere of the table teams are playing, they've given them chances, and some of it have resulted in goals. And Fabinho, for one, is one of those guys that shields the defense. I think that the midfield setup that they have now with Henderson and Thiago Alcantara is not working from a defensive standpoint. That is, they're just not giving the protection to the back four that they're used to. So to bench Fabinho is a strange one for me because he's of course suggesting that Fabinho is not playing up to his regular standards, but so is a lot of those players in the Liverpool shirt. They're just not performing in the way that they're supposed to.
And how important was it that Darren Nunez, he got that equalizer? Because we already know that, earlier in the season, he was dealt a red card based on his own doing, of course. And, since then, he has come back into the team and hasn't looked like what would have been expected of him from the Liverpool fans.
Look, I generally think that he can do well for Liverpool. I'll go as far as to say he can be the Haaland of Manchester City for Liverpool. He has the same attributes, the same qualities. And if he's given the same sort of supply line, I think, of course, he can do well. But he needs a consistent run in games. I think it doesn't help when the likes of Salah, Jota to a lesser extent, Firmino, are still very much not at the same levels that they have been at for what we've seen from them in the past. It hasn't helped him in terms of settling. So I think if he gets the right sort of service, the right sort of players in and around him, I think he can excel.
Yeah, let's talk about the big man in the minute we have left. CR700 now, Brent Sancho. A lot of criticism. Everybody who has an opinion has had something bad to say about Cristiano Ronaldo as he has struggled this season. 700 club goals. Never before in the history of planet Earth has anyone in Europe's top leagues scored 700 club goals. It was a peach of a goal too as well. And regardless of what you want to say about him, Brent, respect has to be due when talking about CR700.
Listen, George, I'm going to say something, and I don't think it will come back to bite me. I don't think any player will ever break this record.
Well, Messi will break it, though. Messi is 691, though. So nobody else apart from Messi.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen because it's an incredible number, and you call Messi and Ronaldo. I don't think people understand what these two players have done for the sport in terms of their longevity and consistency and their excellence at that level. It's almost impossible to do. They've been able to do it. I'll also suggest that Erik ten Hag is making a mistake not starting him. I think he needs to play. I think he needs to get a run of games because that's one department that I think they're struggling in. But what this man has done is phenomenal, and I do hope that he gets more playing time with Manchester United.
I was reading something last night, Brent, that said for Haaland to get near Cristiano's 700, and if it stops at 700, he need to score at least 35 goals every season for about 17 straight seasons. I mean, it's ridiculous.
It sums it up. It sums it up.
Yeah.
And I look back at some of his goal hauls at Real Madrid, 53, 56. I mean, those are ridiculous numbers, and I'm not sure if our viewers understand how difficult that is to do in world football, particularly in the way football has progressed. It's become a very stingy defensively game in terms of giving up goals. But the fact that he's been able, and what I like about him, George, is that he's been able to adapt his game according to the circumstances throughout. So, phenomenal by the great man, CR7.
20 seconds, I'm stealing time, Brent. Should we come to a position where we all need to collectively recalibrate in our minds who we think the greatest players in the history of football are? Because Pele, Maradona, many of us swear by those players and kill us. Those players are the greatest. They didn't have these numbers. They didn't have this consistency over a long time. Yes, they won World Cups, but they didn't handle the pressure that Messi and CR7 have had, and they haven't the weight of goals to qualify them. Must we, at a reasonable time, not today, sit and re-look at who the greatest are, or the greatest is?
You have to take longevity in it, George. You have to, because consistency for a long time makes you great. Not a lot of athletes can do that. And if you could be at your top level for a very long time, it says to me that you are the greatest. As you rightfully said, Pele, Maradona, as great as they were, they just did not produce those numbers because they weren't able to stay consistently great for that long period of time. So you're right, you have to look at it. Of course, the eye test is always good, but I think more importantly, that consistency for a long time is extremely important. And of course, Ronaldo and Messi has done it, and I don't think we'll see another two players that can do that for a very, very long time. Certainly not in our lifetimes, I believe.
Yeah, thank you very much, Brent. That's all the time we have. All the best to you.
Thanks, guys. Have a great one.
All right, we take a break now, reminding you, goal scoring is the most difficult thing to do in football. Always has been, always will be. Ronaldo, 700 for club alone, ridiculous.